like to go back and
All sports, all plays. Yeah. All sports, all plays. All sports, all plays. 365, we making up plays. You talking the game, get you to the days. We're high in the court, the dime in the lane. Variety topics, living the same. All presentation, sports information. In the airways, taking the nation. All sport, all plays, they working your faces. Grace at the field, so tie the laces. All sports, all plays. Yeah.
What is up, everyone? Welcome into another episode of the Hoosier Huddle. I got, luckily, my fellow co-host with me. I got Joe, who was nice enough to stick around for a second round with me. So, Joe, how you doing tonight?
me. It's me. I was looking around. I didn't know who you were talking to.
Right? How are you,
How are you doing tonight, sir?
I'm good. I got a haircut. I'm getting ready to go out, have a few drinks, have a good time, hopefully, but we'll see.
Looking snazzy. Western Ohio, watch out.
Right? You gotta get the Midwest girls with like 4 teeth. And I can say that because I'm from the Midwest and I've seen them. All right. So obviously we got to kick things off with the Thursday night game last night with Dallas and the Saints. So it was, as a Cowboys fan, it was rough for me to watch. As always, I'm always at the edge of my seat. And until the clock hits double zeros, I never really believed that Dallas is truly going to win it because it's Dallas and they very much have the opportunity to shoot themselves in the foot at every turn that they possibly have.
Mm-hmm.
But luckily, they faced an even worse Taysom Hill yesterday, who threw 4 picks, 3 of them on consecutive possessions. So I really wasn't upset after like quarter 4. I was like, all right, we're good. We can't screw this up. We're good. Yep. So, Joe, what was your take last night? Do you think Dallas was clicking a little bit better, or do you think New Orleans is just starting to implode a little bit more because there's really no answer at quarterback right now since Jameis Winston is hurt?
I think it's a little bit of both. Dallas did something that they haven't done recently, which is don't let a bad team stay close. I mean, even though they didn't click offensively like I thought they should have, aside from the Tony Pollard, 58-yard rush, they're pretty much bottled up all evening. I think if you look at the rest of their stats, it was below average even for them, what they've been recently. Yeah. The defense was gifted turnovers, and they took those gifts where I think in some other games they've had opportunities and not capitalized on them. So in that regards, I don't like Taysom Hill. No offense to him. No offense to Sean Payton, but last night was an abomination of coaching as much as it was quarterbacking. Taysom Hill went out with that middle finger injury. He comes back in the game. They don't want to insert Simeon. For whatever reason, Ian Book, the rookie quarterback they have, isn't even on the roster. I mean, he's not even active for the game. So you're going in with Taysom Hill, who's coming off an injury and a concussion, Trevor Simeon, who's struggled, and you can't even get Book just as an emergency quarterback. I mean, Sean Payton, for being a genius and an offensive guru, I mean, yeah, Taysom Hill ran for 100 yards because Dallas was fine letting him run.
Yeah.
They didn't want to get wide receivers caught behind them. They didn't want to get busted on double moves. For Dallas, I give it like a 4 out of 10 of like, okay, good. You beat a bad team and you should have. Yeah. For the Saints, it's a -10. I mean, yeah, they had guys out. Their 2 tackles are gone.
Kamara is out.
I get that, but it never seemed like they have a game plan. And I'm sorry, but when you have a quarterback who you've invested 4 more years into, aside from all the funny money, 4 more years at this guy, an opportunity to play quarterback for your team, and that's what it looks like. I'm sorry, that's bad.
Yeah, and I agree wholeheartedly. You know, watching as a Dallas fan, it was, you know, to watch the offense sputter so badly, and then when, to me, the biggest mistake was when Taysom Hill got hurt. Sean Payton didn't go back to Trevor Simeon. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm not going to sit here and say that Trevor Simeon is the guy. I'm not even going to say Trevor Simeon would or would not have won them the game, but you could very easily tell once Taysom Hill had that splint on his finger, the throws were not there.
They were short.
Yeah, and there's a couple of people brought up a really good point this morning on a few of the talk shows. Was Taysom Hill is set to earn at least $50 million in career earnings throughout his entire time in the league. Alvin Kamara right now is only projected to make like $26 million, so half of that. And Alvin Kamara is twice the player that Taysom Hill is.
At,
Um,
at least.
yeah, and so I don't know if Sean Payton was just, well, we're paying him the big money. He's supposed to live up to this contract. To me, Taysom Hill kind of loses his mystique when he has to start being a quarterback and he stops
Mhm.
being a gadget player. Like you said, he was running all over Dallas. Why
Mhm.
he didn't just keep that and keep doing that, I don't know. I
I don't.
mean,
Sorry, I wasn't trying to cut you
you're
off.
good.
The frustrating part is this is a guy in his early 30s. This
Yeah.
isn't like Lamar Jackson's 24. We criticize Lamar all the time, or 24, 25. But like we
Mhm.
always, oh, he's not developed as a passer. Taysom Hill's in his early 30s. He's been in
Yep.
the league. He's been on multiple practice squads and teams. Like all you have to do is refine your craft on there. You're not even
Mhm.
given a game plan. You're just going out and being told, snap the ball, throw the ball, all this. You have a lot of opportunities to work on being a better player. If this was a wide receiver who still had like the drops at
Yeah.
30 years old, is a team signing him?
Oh
Even
no.
if he's like a great punt return, like no, like what are we doing here? Quarterbacks get such a pass, and in my opinion, Taysom Hill is not a quarterback. And
No.
last night proved it. Like
Mhm.
seriously, there's a reason you brought in Jameis and brought him back. And
Yep.
yes, the Jameis injury hurts. There's a reason you had Trevor Simeon because
Mhm.
despite him, I said to a buddy of mine earlier who's a Dallas fan, he said, what do you think happens if Simeon comes in that game? I said, I'm not saying Simeon wins that game. I'm saying they look more competent on offense, if that makes any sense.
And they
They
would be
may,
more contenders because think about it. Taysom wait like a lot of quarterbacks will throw to the receivers, they'll throw them open. Like,
Mhm,
hey, I'm gonna put the ball here, go get it. Taysom waits for you to be completely uncovered and out, and then he underthrows you. So you
mhm,
you not only have to be open where you need to be, but then you have to go get it. And with
mhm.
Dallas playing man to man, as much as I hate it because Dallas gets a crap ton of penalties when they play man to
Yeah.
man. God, I hate penalties as a Dallas fan. Um, it that creates so many opportunities for like what they had last night. 4 interceptions. One of our defensive tackles picked him off
Right
and
to
ran
him.
it back for a pick six.
Right to him.
Like, yeah,
It's just again, and Mike, our buddy Mike posted in there, Ian Book is so bad. What was Taysom Hill? I mean,
yeah,
what was he? Like, he gets a 70-yard touchdown at the end of the game to make his stats look good. Nobody thinks that that's an actual touchdown pass. I mean, on
no,
the crosser when Dallas lost the receiver, on the natural pick, Taysom Hill was a second behind in his progressions, which is a lifetime as an NFL quarterback. And
yep,
the guy almost didn't score because he had to wait for Taysom to see him open and
mhm,
get to the edge. I mean, the safety almost came up and made a play when there was no business in him making a play. I mean, like you said, he waits for guys to get open. This isn't a rookie. If
no,
Mac Jones or Trey Lance or Zach Wilson looked like that, we'd be like, oh man, we're a little concerned.
mhm.
Um, in regular terms, Taysom Hill is a grown ass man in the NFL.
And it's not like he's new to the system. He's been in the system for 3, 4 years now. So this isn't
Mhm,
anything new for him. Um,
exactly.
I think too, New Orleans defense is what kind of surprised me because even though if you take out the CD Lamb had uh, I think a little over 40 yards for a carry, and then the
Mhm,
same thing with Tony Pollard had the 58-yard touchdown.
mhm.
And really, that touchdown wasn't supposed to happen because if you
No.
watch the safety, he was like kind of toe tapping with him, like, "Oh, I'm going to get him. I got the angle." No, you
Yeah.
never want to take somebody on if it's 1-to-1, you never want to take that chance because 9 times out of 10, you're gonna lose.
Yeah. You wanna get the straight line A to B. Yeah, I
Mhm.
don't know what he was doing. It's almost like he was, like, waiting for a penalty. I mean, no offense to Dallas fans, he was waiting for a penalty
Yeah.
to be called or,
Mhm.
like, a blown dead play or something. He
Or
never seemed to be aware that the play was actually continuing to going on. It was very, very odd.
yeah, but if you take those 2 runs out, Dallas was only able to run for, what was it, 20 attempts for, like, 50 yards. They averaged, like, 2.2 yards per carry. So you had
Wow.
essentially stopped the run with the
Mhm.
exception of those 2 plays, and you forced Dallas to throw it.
Yeah.
To me, that and I know they have some injuries on defense, but that defense should still be better and should still be able to overcompensate, especially on the fact that they did stop Dallas a lot of times. They made Dallas's offense stutter, and they
Mhm.
couldn't capitalize on the fact that Dallas's offense was stuttering.
Yeah, and they couldn't create turnovers. That's
Yeah.
something the Saints have really done, even with Simeon staying competitive in some of those games. We saw the almost comeback against Tennessee, is
Mhm.
when the Saints can create some turnovers, then it helps them because their offense is shaky with Kamara out and Jameis not there and all this stuff. And Dallas last night did the one thing that they haven't done lately, which is not turn over the ball. They
Yeah.
didn't give the Saints an opportunity for a short field
Mhm.
multiple times and things of that sort. So kudos to Dallas on a night where they were clearly struggling outside of CeeDee Lamb and
Mhm.
like one time with Tony Pollard,
Right.
that they didn't force the ball and they
Mhm.
didn't, turn it over.
Yeah. All right, so let's kind of move on real quick because I know a lot of people have covered these this week. Tonight, though, we have the Pac-12 championship with Oregon being at Utah. Oregon ranked number 10, Utah ranked number 17. Real quick, who do you have at least winning the Pac-12 game tonight?
Not Oregon. I just every time that I put my faith in Oregon, I'm an Ohio State fan. They beat us early in the year when they were down
Mhm.
players.
Yep.
Oregon just seems like a team that if you were to wager on or have your faith in, that they're just going to disappoint you. The game is being played in Vegas, so I
Mhm.
think that gives a little bit of a benefit to Utah as a home crowd.
Yep.
We'll see, but I think Utah has played pretty well, so I'd give it to Utah.
And Utah beat them earlier this year, so
Mhm.
I mean, which was also really surprising because they weren't supposed to do that.
Yeah.
And then, of course, probably one of the two other big games because I don't really consider the Big 12 a big game, not until if something happens with Cincinnati, if
Mhm.
Alabama gets knocked out, then the Big 12 game will potentially mean a little bit more. But obviously, the two big games that everybody are going to definitely be watching as far as upsets go is the SEC championship with Alabama versus Georgia. Who do you
Mhm.
have winning in that?
I I don't want to say this. I don't. I think it's Alabama. And
Okay.
for this reason and this reason alone, I don't think Georgia has shown offensively that if they keep a pretty good offense, stagnant, not shut them out, but stagnant, that they can put up enough points to win. I just think the Georgia offense is really limited. So even if they hold Alabama to like 17 points, if
Mhm.
the Alabama defense comes to play, I'm not sure that Georgia can score more than 17.
Mhm. See, now I'll disagree with you, and I'll disagree with you for a couple things because I'm very critical of Alabama.
Mhm.
Another reason why Freddie's ears usually tingles because I can't stand Alabama. Um,
I can't either. In my defense, I can't either.
like, I watched the game last week with Auburn, and
Mhm.
I'm not even going to sit here and say, oh well, Auburn had their starting quarterback. They didn't. They had a walk on freshman that was hurt throughout basically the entirety of that game. The dude was limping. He could barely do a drop back. He couldn't, really, fake a handoff and drop back.
Mhm.
Everything had to be out of the shotgun or he had to hand the ball off, one of the two. And you let basically a pretty terrible Auburn team
Yeah.
lead you the entire game. You didn't really come to play until the very last quarter where you tied it. And then Auburn still managed to take you into 4 overtimes before you
Mhm.
finally got the win. That to me shows that Alabama, because Alabama was extremely undisciplined in that game. I mean, I
Mhm.
have never seen Alabama commit that many turnovers like ever
Mhm.
before, and that was bad. Um, and to be honest with you, there's nothing that Alabama has done this year, whether it's on the offensive side of the ball or the defensive side of the ball, or even as a collective whole, that
Mhm.
gives me any type of faith and confidence. Now, I do agree if there is ever a team that Alabama will, return to its glory to, it's
Mhm.
always flipping Georgia when it comes to like any type of championship. But I will say for Georgia, if they do manage to beat Bama, Bama is then knocked out of the playoffs, and
Mhm.
essentially Georgia can take a sigh of relief because then they can go into the playoffs. There's not really another team after that that I could see even remotely threatening Georgia not winning the championship because pretty
Uh,
much every team other than Georgia this year, and you can maybe even say Cincinnati has been absolutely terrible.
Listen, all your points about Alabama are fair. This was supposed to not be two teams very similar, Alabama and Ohio State,
Mhm.
been riding a highway for a long time. They had not a dip in recruiting, but they had players leave for the NFL, players coming in, starting freshmen, Bryce Young, things of that sort. That's fine. That drive really showed me something though, that Saban has those kids believing. And I
Yeah.
think that's half the battle is they can look around and say, listen, we don't have, I mean, a lot of people think Bryce Young will be the Heisman Trophy winner or at least a chance at it.
Mhm.
But We don't have the number one prospect in the nation. We don't have the number one pick in the draft. We don't have an intimidating defense. But
Yeah.
we have us.
Yeah.
And Saban's going to go in there with that experience. And we talk about it all the time in college and pros is when the coaches put you in a position to win. And if there is a coach in all of college football who can put his players in a position to win, it is Nick Saban. Like it or not, it is Nick Saban. And also, not too many assistants have beaten Nick Saban. I mean, Kirby Smart, I think, is 0-5 lifetime against Nick Saban. Like, it's not good. So whether it's a psychological thing or a universe thing or whatever thing, they just struggle. So, again, it wouldn't surprise me if Alabama pulled the upset.
Yeah, I could see it. And then the other one, because obviously we have to be a little bit biased because we're both pretty big fans of the Big Ten. Iowa versus Michigan. I've heard a lot of people pick Iowa as an upset. But I'll be honest with you, I only see it through the fact that Iowa is typically a very defensive team, but they don't do a lot of things very well on the offense. They don't really push the ball downfield. They don't have a strong running game. Iowa is typically known for if you want to go to offensive linemen in the draft, you typically can go to Iowa if they're out of Bama or Georgia. If that doesn't work, then you can also get a very good tight end, aka George Kittle. I think Noah Fant too, if I remember right.
Noah Fant.
So I mean, you can get good tight ends out of Iowa, but I'll be honest, I think Michigan's run game with Hassan Reddick is just going to be too much for Iowa to be able to handle. And I would say, even though Michigan's pass game isn't anything that I would exactly fear, I would say that it's good enough to be able to beat an Iowa team.
Completely agree with you. As much as I would love to pick Iowa because they're not Michigan, I'm an Ohio State fan, so this one hurts just a little bit more. This game, the thing that really bothers me about the Big Ten is that they have their game at Lucas Oil Field Stadium in Indianapolis, which is so frustrating. It's in a dome.
Yep.
You have all these teams that are built to play outside. They play outside all year, and then you stick them in a dome. Iowa would benefit from this game being outside, played in the sludge, played in the muck.
Yeah.
Like you said, they want to run. I mean, Michigan showed what they can do with their offensive line. I still don't think Harbaugh is a good big game guy. I mean, one win against Ohio State doesn't all of a sudden get all the monkeys off your back.
No.
If this game was close going into the fourth quarter, would I be surprised? No, because I think it's absolutely everything you said about Iowa, about the linemen, about the running game, stuff like that. Ditto for Michigan. They're going to want to slow the game down. They're not going to spread them out 4 or 5 wide and try and put up 50 points. They're going to try and pound, same as they did to Ohio State. The problem is I think they are going to get a little bit more pushback from an Iowa team. So low-scoring game, both teams under 20 points. Sure, it could happen, unless, again, we get some big runs. That was what Michigan did against Ohio State. It was those long drives and some big plays, some big 15, 20, 25-plus yard runs.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. So we'll move away from college. We'll move back into the NFL. So there's 3 games that I was looking at this year, or not this year, this weekend. This weekend that I'm kind of the most interested in because I think it kind of affects the majority of the seeding and a lot of the playoff standings. And surprisingly, they are actually all AFC games now that I look at them. I didn't even notice that. I was like, oh,
that's
wow,
okay.
They're all in the AFC.
I didn't notice that either.
So obviously, I'm not in any particular order. So the Ravens versus the Steelers, and it's in Pittsburgh. To me, I'm not going to say this is the Ravens' kind of defining moment, because I think Pittsburgh is struggling so much right now, offensively and defensively, mainly due to injuries. And I think that it's hard because defensively, they are still a good team. They are still very much a threat because you have probably 2 of the best players as far as TJ Watt and Minka Fitzpatrick. But if I remember right, I think TJ Watt is out for the rest of the year.
I don't believe he's been declared out the rest of the year, but there is concern that he'll miss some time.
Right. And for Pittsburgh, really right now they're struggling, and they're struggling in an AFC North that is doing significantly better than a lot of people thought they would, especially with, Baltimore, they're banged up. They basically have no running backs, very poor wide receiver core, and a very banged up defense. They lost, 2 of their stars pretty much first week, if not preseason, completely for the rest of the year. You have a Bengals team that is shocking pretty much everybody, being 7-4 right now.
Very much so.
A Browns team that is extremely underwhelming, and then you have Pittsburgh, who is Pittsburgh, with an aging Ben Roethlisberger that moves like a grandma trying to cross the road. Basically, I'm not really going to knock Najee Harris because it is a rebuilt offensive line. This is their first year working together, but that is a very porous, very bad O line.
Mhm.
Chase Claypool, I think, has finally kind of hit that second year, that sophomore slump,
Mhm.
and the fact that he doesn't have when he was a rookie, nobody really knows how to play him because he's a rookie. What can he do?
Yep.
And you had Juju Smith-Schuster on the other side. Well, Juju's out. You have Chase. Johnson, number 18, isn't terrible. To me, though, I think this is going to be kind of the year that I think the Steelers have a losing record,
Mhm.
and I think they miss the playoffs this year.
Listen, I completely agree with you. I mean, right now Pittsburgh's 5-5-1.
Yep.
I'm not sure anybody would have expected that because, like it's been talked about numerous times, Tomlin's never had a losing season in Pittsburgh.
Mm-hmm.
It's just not something. Even when they've had quote unquote bad years, they're not losing seasons.
Nope.
It's
They're
9-7, 8-8. It's things of that sort. So, in that regard, I do think it is a measuring stick for Baltimore, though, because again, this game excited me a little bit more 4 years ago. When they're playing in the playoffs, chances to go to Super Bowls. Now you have the Ravens, who the thing about the Ravens is, and this is the most frustrating part, is this is an organization that I think people can really dislike at times
Mm-hmm.
because of Ray Lewis. Not everybody was a fan
Yep.
of, just their swagger and things of that sort, which is fine. But
Mm-hmm.
then they start to lose these players. They lose, Matt Judon in free agency. Ray Lewis retires. This past couple of years, Terrell Suggs gone.
Yep.
And then they go and they find a middle linebacker in Patrick Queen, who, by the way, looks like a Raven and plays like a Raven. And then you get this young guy. I'm trying. Is it Oha or Ora? I'm trying to remember the outside linebacker who was wreaking havoc against
Oh,
Cleveland
yeah.
at
Mhm.
the end of the first round. And it's like, oh, great. There's another Terrell Suggs that we have to deal with for the
Yep.
next 10 years. It's like, it's really easy for people to kind of just give the side eye to the Ravens. But this is a team. Listen, Tomlin, we know what his in-locker room speeches look like thanks to Antonio Brown. He wants to beat these mother effers. Like that, we know he does. He doesn't want to let Baltimore. Right now, they're 8-3, the number one seed in the AFC. Wouldn't the best thing to do right now is hand them a loss in Pittsburgh, bring them down a peg or two? I mean,
Uh-huh.
as bad as this Pittsburgh team is, you're absolutely right. I thought the Najee pick was really, really bad just because of what their team needed and where it was. I
Mhm.
just thought there was better players in that position.
Yeah.
But it's just I think Baltimore should win this game easily
Mhm.
because I'm not sure they can handle Lamar, just like you said, health, safety, and all that. But I wouldn't be shocked if Pittsburgh kept this game close just because of how they play each other.
Yeah, and the fact that it's a divisional rival.
Exactly.
John did bring up a good question here, and if you want to answer it real quick with me, do you think the 3-game suspension for AB is fair when Aaron Rodgers got a fine? I'll be honest with you. I am one of the probably biggest Aaron Rodgers haters as well as critics, because I also saw when he got a fine for lying about being quote immunized. He got basically a slap on the wrist. But if you look at other players, look at the whole Cassis March thing for the Bears and the ref, getting fined for that. CeeDee Lamb got fined for waving at a Patriots defender at the end of the game. He got fined like 25 grand.
As he should have. That's disrespectful to the Patriots.
I know. But no, I don't think it's fair at all because think about it. If it had been really anybody else other than like Tom Brady and maybe Russell Wilson, they would all but be 3 games suspended. And and it's not only the fact that he lied about being immunized, it's the fact that he broke all of the protocols and was just like, yeah, I'm Aaron Rodgers, I'm going to do what I want and I don't care. That to me is where I have the issue. Now Packers fans, aka Freddie, will argue with me that no, that's fair. No, it's not. That is not fair. How is it, like you can do this, you can lie about being immunized, put everybody else at risk, and you get basically a slap on the wrist? Whereas all these other players that aren't immunized, like look at Kirk Cousins. If Kirk Cousins showed up to Minnesota and pulled what he pulled after he even said, I'm not vaccinated, I could easily see a suspension for him very easily. Now, AB's case is a little different. I haven't completely looked into it. From what I've heard, he had a vaccination card. Come to find out, he's not actually immunized. So he has basically he used a fake vaccine card, which is a federal. It's a felony. Because they came out with that earlier this year. They said if you obtain a vaccine card and you are not actually vaccinated and you still use it, that is a federal crime.
It's fraud. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's fraud. Do I think that AB should be suspended more for it? No. I think 3 games is fair, and plus the dude is hurt anyway right now. So really, in actuality, he's only going to miss 1 game when he's, quote, healthy. But no, I think personally both of them should be equally suspended, if not both equally fined on top of it. I think Aaron Rodgers just gets more of a pass because he's a golden boy. And think about it, when you look at the NFL, when you look at the ratings, because that's what the NFL is about. That's why this schedule has probably been one of the most interesting this year that we've ever seen, as far as big primetime games. Aaron Rodgers and the Packers bring in the audience. They bring in money because he's the guy to beat. But no, I think Aaron Rodgers should have probably got suspended for the rest of the year, to be honest with you. I could even make the same argument for AB. Get suspended for the rest of the year. Now, ABs will probably be a little bit more serious if they do an investigation on it. I don't know if they will or not. They probably will. This has actually been one of those. It's weird how hush-hush they've been about this coming out, considering it is fraud and it's a felony at the fact that he did that. That's just me.
I'm going to have to push back on you a little bit. I'm going to have to disagree a little bit. Now, the 3-game suspension, I think, was the minimum that they deserved. If they were suspended for the rest of the year, I would have been perfectly fine with that. This was something that now his agent is saying, no, Antonio is vaccinated. Well, yeah, probably after the point of when it was originally turned in. That's not the point. That doesn't matter, because you can't go I got my homework done, but I forgot it at home, and then go home and do your homework and turn it in. Like, we know that you're lying. It's not the same. It's just not. The Rodgers situation is super critical of. He shouldn't have been suspended because the Packers, more than Rodgers at times, were culpable. And so was the league. They let him walk around the facility with no mask. They let him conduct the interviews in the rooms with reporters with no mask. They knew he wasn't vaccinated. The league knew he wasn't vaccinated because they have access to weight room, locker room, cafeteria videotape that they've done. Remember, like, they caught the Broncos last year in the quarterback room, which is why Tyler Hinton had to start in that game against the Saints. So Rodgers was thumbing his nose at the league, but the league wasn't paying attention, quote unquote, paying attention. I thought that the Packers organization should have been fined at least $1 million, had at minimum a 2nd-round pick taken, because that was the only thing that was going to catch their attention. At Lazard and Rodgers getting $14,000 fines was ridiculous. I think the team got what? Was it 300,000 or something?
Yeah, it was a pretty significant difference as far as
it was a drop in the bucket. I mean, it was ridiculous. But the AB situation, again, is different, in my opinion, because what he did is, and I've talked about this, I don't like Cole Beasley. I don't like what he stands for. Personal feelings aside, he looked at everybody and said, I'm not going to take the vaccine, but I will follow every protocol. I will do absolutely what the league, my employer, says I have to do to stay on the field. And you know what? I haven't heard one peep out of Cole Beasley. I haven't complained about him. I haven't even thought about him.
And it's funny, he has yet to even be sick or be on a COVID list either, too.
Absolutely. So listen, as somebody who caught COVID and is still suffering from it, it is not fun. So please, everybody be safe. But the Beasley situation, like, he didn't try and falsify anything. If AB didn't want to be vaccinated, he didn't have to be vaccinated, but he had to follow protocols. The difference is AB, same as Mike Miller, same as the other person I can't think of right now that's a free agent. Mike Miller, the safety for the Bucs, also got a 3-game suspension. They just wanted to live their life the way they wanted to under the guise of being vaccinated. Aaron Rodgers didn't care. He was just going to do whatever he wanted. AB wanted you to think he was doing the right thing while also doing what he wanted. So did Aaron Rodgers deserve a suspension? Not according to the rules. Did AB? Yes. according to the rules. Now, if you don't like the rules, then you have a players union and you can fight and you can talk about this stuff. But the players union and the league worked in consideration together. Now, the one thing the Players Association did when it came to AB is they came out strong against these three players. They basically released a joint statement with the NFL saying we take this very seriously and we do not appreciate this. They were pretty quiet with the Rodgers stuff, which goes to your point about it being the golden boy. You know, there's only a handful of quarterbacks that if that happens to.
Yeah, because so I guess that's what I was trying to kind of say more, and to kind of tie in with what you're saying. Like you said, the NFL and the Packers didn't really pay attention, and I don't know if they ever really asked Rodgers for proof. They just assume, okay, he's immunized. You know, when you say immunized, you figure, okay, you know, he's got to be, right. He said he was, and think about it. You know, if look at how long Aaron Rodgers has been with the Packers. You know, been 17 years. Okay, he's a faithful employee. He's done everything we have asked him to do. He shows up to the training camps. You know, think about it. They're probably like, okay, we'll give you the good faith. You probably got vaccinated. You see, to me, that's where I think he and AB are both in the wrong, because, again, he did the same thing as AB. He wanted to live his life, basically being, you know, but he wanted to live his life, do his own thing under the precursor that he is, quote, vaccinated when he wasn't. That to me is where I kind of have the issue with it, is because again, same thing with Antonio Brown. He's doing everything against the protocols as far as whether he's vaccinated or not. Now, I will say they both did that, because think about it. If you say you're vaccinated, or if you have it, and then you come in with a mask, and then you do everything that the unvaccinated people are supposed to do, it's going to be like, wait a minute.
That's weird.
Vaccinated.
That's weird.
It's weird. Why are you doing that? I mean, we get it. We get it, but it's kind of weird, my guy.
I was trying to think of like a situation to compare the two. The only thing I could think of is they're both driving down the interstate, and Aaron Rodgers just isn't wearing his seatbelt. He's like, screw it. I don't care if it's the law. I'm just not going to wear my seatbelt. Go ahead and pull me over. The difference is AB painted a seatbelt on his shirt. And when he gets pulled over, they look at his shirt and they're like, wait a minute. You're not wearing a seatbelt. That's just painted on. And it's like, no, now you're in trouble. You have to pay a stupid tax now. And the 3-game suspension for Antonio Brown and Mike Miller, and I'm sorry, the other player I can't remember, is the stupid. What is it?
Mike Edwards and apparently John Franklin III.
I'm sorry, Mike Edwards. I'm sorry, not Mike. Sorry, Mike Edwards. Is you have to pay the stupid tax, and the stupid tax is a 3-game suspension. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I'm a big fan of it. You play stupid games, you win stupid prizes. But you know that's one of my favorite things to say. So moving on though, so the second game, the Broncos versus the Chiefs. So the AFC West has been pretty much just like the NFC North, not the NFC North, the AFC North. Every team is above 500 right now, which is crazy. Chargers have been up and down, the Chiefs have been up and down, but it looks like the Chiefs have kind of started to click a little bit more and get on their roll. Do you think if the Broncos win, because it's in Kansas City, do you think if the Broncos win, this kind of derails the Chiefs even more and hurts their chances of going into the playoffs even more?
I think it gives them something to look at. I think right now the way that the Broncos win this game is the same exact way that they beat Dallas, which is to hold on to the ball for 35 to 40 minutes, to not have any turnovers. When the Chiefs are on defense, to really put pressure on them. Right now, the running game for the Chiefs is a little bit improved with Clyde Edwards-Helaire. They're opening up the offense a little bit more. The Chiefs' defense is playing better. 4 straight games giving up less than 20 points. That Broncos offense at times is definitely, you know, a little scary, even with my good friend Teddy Bridgewater. Right. But I think, if the Broncos do pull off this win, the Chiefs have to feel like another piece of armor is taken away from them. And I think they've had that this year, where they just can't turn the offense on. It does take time, where the defense just can't shut out or stop bad offensive teams. So if a team like the Broncos, who they've beaten, I think it's like 11 straight games, if the Broncos come into their home and win, I mean, it's a pause for concern.
Right. Yeah, I kind of agree. And John said that the Chiefs will crush the Broncos by 20. Chiefs getting Clyde Edwards back helps that line huge. I agree. I think honestly the big thing that has helped the Chiefs is Andy Reid has gone back and looked and said, okay, we are putting so much on Patrick Mahomes because he's our $500 million investment. And you're making him have to improvise so much by having some of these crazy plays, by having the wide receivers do crazy stuff that, you know, I'm not saying they can't do it. Tyreek Hill is probably one of the best wide receivers in the game. You have
Mhm.
Travis Kelce. You make it work. You make it work with Nicole Hardman and Pringle. They brought Josh Gordon back, but I don't know why. The man's
Is he
basically been
playing? I haven't
yeah,
seen
he's
him.
been a ghost the entire time he's been with the Chiefs. Um, but I think they've simplified the offense though, so that way Patrick can kind of go back to doing Patrick things. He doesn't have to scramble and run around and okay, I'll chuck it and Tyreek's down there somewhere or Travis Kelsey's down there somewhere and go from there. So to me, I think that helps. The running game I do think has been established a little bit more, but I will say I want to see Clyde Edwards-Helaire for one more year before I determine whether or not he's going to be that back. His
Mhm.
rookie year, he wasn't bad, he wasn't terrible. This year, I think he kind of took a step back, not only because of injuries, but I just don't see him as being the runner that he looked like when he was at LSU. I don't know if maybe he's struggling as far as transitioning that into the NFL on top of the Chiefs O line kind of being rebuilt. And I don't think the Chiefs O line is living up to the expectations of what
No.
they paid and what they gave up for that
Mhm.
offensive line. Because you look at some of the talented players they had, Orlando Brown, you got Kyle Long to come out of retirement, you got Joe Thuney,
Yep, yep.
you got all these different players on this offensive line and completely rebuilt it. And this offensive line is like average. And these are
Yeah, I mean,
some.
offensive lines take a while to gel anyway. The
Mhm.
the biggest thing I think Denver can do, and they showed it last week against Herbert, is they can make mistakes really hurt you.
Yeah.
We saw Surtain with 2 picks. One was a tip, and he takes it back for a pick six. I mean, there's a reason they invested what they did in the defensive backfield with a top 10 pick, with signing guys in free agency, things of that sort. So it's to compete with a team like Kansas City. It's to compete with a team like the Chargers. It's to compete with a team like the Raiders, who are all three in their division.
Mhm.
So this is a game that they've been setting up for. They want to establish a run game with an offensive line. The Broncos, it's a little bit better.
Mhm.
And I think a big thing that they need to do is, as much as they need to run the ball, I would like to see the Broncos line up 4 or 5 wide, bring Noah Fant out, bring all these wide receivers out, and stretch that Kansas City defense. Chris Jones is going to get pressure no matter what. So, do you
Mhm.
want pressure when you only have 2 wide receiving options, or do you want it when you have 5 receiving options? I mean, Teddy
Right.
Bridgewater, for all the slack that he gets, he's a good quarterback
Mhm.
in a league that doesn't have a whole lot of good quarterbacks. We always talk about the great quarterbacks. How
Yep.
about the middle of the pack quarterbacks? Because those
Mhm.
guys will win you games too.
Well, and especially because, obviously John Elway couldn't pick a quarterback other than Peyton Manning to save his life. Um, yeah, I agree because you think about it, and there's really no quarterbacks that are upcoming or even quarterbacks that are going into free agency that I'm kind of sitting here like, yeah, that guy's better than Teddy. Like Baker's going to potentially be a free agent, not better than Teddy. Um, who else? Russell Wilson maybe might be out there, but a lot of what's going to probably play into Russell Wilson is whether or not Sierra wants to go there. Um,
Mhm.
Denver's not really a big market as far as like international travel, as far as, a big touristy destination. Denver is people from Colorado, people that like to snow, people that have money, but that's not really the market you want to develop your brand and your logo in.
Yeah.
So I mean, and then who else you got? Cam Newton. I
No.
mean, it's not
The
really looking great in the return for the Chargers. You could maybe pull a Carolina and be like, all right, well, Carolina couldn't make it work with Sam Darnold. Let's see what we can do if Carolina is even willing to give that up.
ouch. I have to imagine they are. I mean, really, the perfect quarterback that works in Denver right now just signed an extension this offseason. It's Josh
Mhm.
Allen.
Yeah.
It's a big, sturdy guy with a big, powerful arm who keeps progressing little by little. I mean, really, they thought they had it in Brock Osweiler, which was not the case. He was not Josh Allen. Like you
Mm-mm.
said, Elway couldn't pick a quarterback at a county fair. It was they're a team that's like 92% complete. Like when you're uploading a game or downloading a game and you get that last little bar and it just never goes up and you have to reset your system and start the whole process over again. They have almost all the pieces in place with
Yeah.
draft capital, with players signed to extensions, and they're just waiting.
Yep.
And we don't know if they're going to get that final piece.
Yeah. So we'll move on to the last game because it involves your team. The first of the two matchups, the Patriots versus the Bills.
Oh yeah.
Um, so I'll be honest, I'm gonna be a little critical of your Pats. So I know they're on a 6-game win streak. But I'll be
Mhm.
honest with you. The only two teams that they've beaten that they impressed me by beating them was the Chargers and Tennessee. Everybody else, it was games that I kind of expected the Patriots to win. They beat the Jets. You're pretty much guaranteed to win with the Jets every flipping year. Um, you you beat a very, very, very bad Browns team. You beat a god awful, miserable Atlanta Falcons team. So, really the next 5 weeks for the Patriots are going to be rough because you have the Bills twice, you have the Colts in between the Bills. You do luckily have a bye week, but then you face the Jags and you face the Dolphins, and you face the Dolphins in Miami this time, which historically for
Always a
some reason,
struggle.
which historically the Patriots for whatever reason, you would think like, yes, they're a cold weather team, but you would think, okay, well, it's warm. We'll play great because this is normal, fall football. Um, I'll be honest. I have the Pats finishing at 10-7 as far as these last 5 game win. As far as these last 5 games, I think they split the series with Buffalo. To be honest with you,
Okay.
and then I think they struggle against Indy, and I say that because Indy's had a rough year as far as the schedule goes. They've had to face the entire NFC West. They had the number 2, no, because they didn't win the division last year, so they have a second place schedule to face. So they've had to face the Rams. They've had to face the Bucks. They've had to face the Seahawks. They've had to face a lot of really good teams. They've had to face a lot of them early on. And a lot of those really good teams, they struggle. I mean, look at Tampa Bay. They took Tampa Bay basically down to the wire. Do you see the Patriots kind of continuing on? I think the Patriots are going to pretty much have a lock for at least the 5th or 6th seed of the wild card. I don't know if they'll win the division. I wouldn't be surprised if they do, because I think the Bills have fallen off a little bit more than what I think people expected. But how do you see the Patriots finishing the year?
Oh boy, I'm wearing a hoodie, but I had to absorb all that Patriots hate through into my undershirt and everything.
It's not that much hate. I'm not saying y'all are a bad team.
I gave the
Cowboys
Cowboys some respect earlier. I expected just some professional courtesy, but apparently, if that's the way we're going, I know what to prepare for on Friday evening, sir.
I said I was impressed y'all beat the Chargers and Titans. Okay?
Don't try and backtrack now. Let's go to the tape. Freddie, look at the tape. Run it back. No, listen. The Patriots right now are a team that I feel confident is not going to falter, which is the best thing I can say for a team coming in with a rookie quarterback starting from day one, a draft pick that I wasn't crazy about. I'm not going to lie. Not crazy. I wanted Justin Fields. Didn't get him. That's fine. Mike, you're welcome. And again, we had a big time in free agency, $163 million in guarantees.
Yep.
We have 3 rookies contributing highly in a running back, a quarterback, and a defensive lineman. The team is in a position, again, the 6 wins. I really don't care about the wins. It sounds dumb, but I don't care about the wins because the one thing that we ask teams to do is beat bad teams.
Right.
Well, the Patriots are beating bad teams. So I'm not going to apologize. I'm not going to say, oh, sorry, we're 8-4. I mean, I guess we should be, 5-7 and lose to some of these bad teams. No. There's a reason we've been critical of Kansas City earlier in the year. There's a reason we've been critical of some of these teams, like the Titans losing to the Jets earlier in the year. You said, oh, you're guaranteed to win with the Jets. Well, not if you're Tennessee.
True.
Buffalo lost to Jacksonville. I mean, they're not having these letdown games. Again, we talked about after the Atlanta game, 25-0. It wasn't pretty. I don't care. We got out with a win. They were healthy. I mean, they're doing all the things that you ask professional football teams to do. So do I expect them to win the Super Bowl? No, they are not going to win the Super Bowl. And I'm perfectly fine with that. We are building something here. The Bills, they kicked our butts last year.
Yeah.
They did. And we want to go. It's going to be crazy Monday night. Bills Mafia. I mean, when's the last time the Bills had a game like this where they were neck and neck with the Patriots coming off an AFC championship, game last year? I mean, this is it. I'm going to be interested to see what the numbers are coming out of the Buffalo market. Everybody and their mother's going to be watching this game. They might have 50,000 people outside the stadium tailgating if they're allowed. I mean, it's going to be nuts. But as far as the Patriots go, I'm liking what I'm seeing. We're running the ball. We're establishing something. We're getting healthy at a time when a lot of teams are struggling with injuries. We talked about your team, Dallas. They got some guys back, which is a good thing, but they've struggled with injuries all year. And you can't really – 2/3 of the way through the season, you can't ask for much better than that. I mean, you're sitting in the playoffs, and once we saw the Giants do it, We saw Pittsburgh do it. We've seen teams do it. All you got to do is get in the dance.
Yep.
Get in the dance. It's anybody's chance. Because the one thing we talked earlier about Nick Saban, if there's a coach who's going to get you prepared to face any team in any place, it's Bill Belichick.
Yeah. Yeah, very much so. And yeah, I agree. Like I said, I kind of agree. I wasn't a big fan of the Mac Jones pick. But again, as far as is there a better quarterback that can go in and fit basically the Tom Brady mold as far as, screen passes, short over the middle passes, everything like that, and you don't really need to have a big number one wide receiver. Mac Jones couldn't find a better system to fit in, to be 1,000% honest with you. That fits him like literally like cookie cutter. Just take it out and put it in there, and he's set to go. So I'd agree. I think like I said, I think the Pats will very much, be in the playoffs regardless whether they win the division or if they come in as a wild card. I think they'll be in because, like you said, defensively they are still stout. They beat the bad teams that they're supposed to beat. They beat good teams that they're supposed to beat. Like I said, it'll be interesting to kind of see how this last 5-game stretch goes, though.
Yeah, I want to address something John said in the comments, and thank you, John, for watching along. That's awesome. It's so cool that you guys interact and stuff like that. A couple comments here. Patriots will win most of the time. Teams that beat Pats is on the run game. Bills have 0 run game, and Pats defense is on fire. Mostly agree with that. Bills won last year because Pats didn't have a QB. Cam Newton actually played pretty good ball last year. After people forget that Seattle game on Sunday Night Football was one of the best games of the year. He did catch COVID and struggled after that, and it just went downhill from that. And half the team sat out for COVID. Wasn't quite that many. It was 9 players. They had a league-high 9 players. Some of those players come back, including Dante Hightower, who, by the way, is having an incredible year. So I agree. Everything that the Pats are doing this year is a 180 of last year. You have stable QB play, not in and out of the lineup. You're having health, which is something you didn't have last year because your depth was on the sideline, like you said, whether it was Cam Newton out or players opting out, things of that sort. So again, all the people who were cheering that the Patriots dynasty was dead, it just needed a little, a little multivitamin boost. That's really what they needed.
And really, if you think about it, if Cam Newton hadn't have got COVID, I mean, he's playing some of his best ball, early on in the season.
Yeah. Again, people forget that first Buffalo game, they were in position to kick the field goal. Now, he fumbled the ball. It was a great play by the Bills defense, but they were in a position to win that game at Buffalo.
Yeah.
So, again, as poorly as he played last year, guess what? They were still a 7-9 team. Do you think the Seahawks with Russell, Hustle, Bustle, Mr. Keeping It 1,000 is going to be 7-9 at the end of this year, or 7-10, or 8-9? No.
If they don't win out the rest of their games, they will finish for the first time with a losing season under Pete Carroll with Russell Wilson at the helm. So 2011 was the last time they had a losing season.
Yeah. So again, I just, if the Patriots lose this game, I'm not crying.
Yeah.
I'll hope that we come out of it healthy and learn from it for when they play again in, what'd you say, 2 weeks?
I think they face the Bills, the Colts. They have a bye week. I think somewhere.
The Bills again.
Yeah, and then they have the Bills again.
So 3 weeks again. I want my team to win. I always want them to win, but I'm not gonna jump off the Empire State Building if they don't.
Right. All right, all. Well, this has been another episode of the Hoosier Huddle. Thank you again to Joe for joining me on the show. Always a blast with you. Felt like we covered some really great topics tonight. If y'all enjoyed, please hit the like. Please follow us. Please share. Please subscribe to us on YouTube. We are actually collaborating with the Spotlight Sports Network as well. We have the All Spotlight All Plays network that we've also made. Working with them, we've had a great relationship with them. They're awesome. We love them. Pretty sure they love us. I mean, they like us enough to kind of collab with us.
We'll see when they see me.
Right. Thank you all for joining us. It's been a blast. Hope you all have a good night, and can't wait for a really good weekend and not only college football but professional football as well.
See you next Friday, Tony.
Yep.
All sports, all plays. All sports, all plays. All sports, all plays. 365, we making a plays. You talking the game, get you to the days. We're high in the court, the dime in the lane. Variety topics, living the same. All presentation, sports information.